Nothing is now rumored to launch the Nothing Phone 2, with some pretty big changes over the Phone 1, so here are 12 of the biggest expected changes. And you know what would pair really well with the Nothing Phone 2? A pair of Soundcore's new earbuds, the Liberty 4 NC. With 5 color options, Soundcore's Liberty 4 NCs offer up to 98.5% noise reduction, all at an affordable price. More about Soundcore's Liberty 4 NC in the link below, as well as later in the video. And now, back to the video with the first thing to expect from the Nothing Phone 2, which is a tweaked design. Thanks to OnLeaks and SmartPre, we get an early look at the tweaked design of the Nothing Phone 2. And for the most part, the design is very similar, but there are a couple of notable changes. The biggest one being the frame, which is now rounded as opposed to the flat frame of the Nothing Phone 1. In a way, it kind of resembles the frame of the iPhone 6, only thicker, whereas the Phone 1's frame was more similar to the iPhone 12 and newer style of iPhones by being fully flat. Personally, I do prefer the flatter frame of the Phone 1, but at least this new frame would be more comfortable to hold in the hand. We can also see that the display now curves around the edges. Again, very similar to the pre-iPhone 12 design with that 2.5D glass. And the same goes for the back, which also seems to have a slight curvature to it. So yeah, comfort-wise, the Phone 2 should indeed be a big upgrade over the Phone 1. Speaking of the back, this is where we get our second change, the updated glyph design. For the most part, we still get the same glyph elements, but these have now been split into multiple elements, likely to improve the impact that a glyph has, and also to allow them to be a bit more immersive when playing music. For example, the camera glyph has now been split into 2 pieces, and the wireless charger glyph has now been split into 6, rather than just the single one that we had with the Phone 1. Which brings us to the third change, the glyph composer. And Nothing has actually announced this themselves, so it is fully official that the Phone 2 would allow you to compose your own ringtones, of course fully taking advantage of the glyph interface, and that this would also include some popular songs from Swedish House Mafia. The Glyph Composer app would also work on the Phone 1, so if you already have a Phone 1, you won't be missing out on anything here. The next new feature is a new red light for when you're recording videos. Nothing has actually teased this themselves, so we know that this is definitely coming. You do have this on the Nothing Phone 1 as well, by the way. It's just that now they've made it much bigger and it seems to be a bit more subtle as opposed to the bright light that we had before. Nothing says that it's more premium, and yeah, it definitely feels like it. Speaking of premium, you know what feels premium but doesn't cost premium? Soundcore's Liberty 4 NC wireless earphones are a great option for general consumers who want strong active noise cancelling and great sound at a low cost without compromise. With their industry-leading noise cancelling system, Liberty 4 NC offers 98.5% noise cancelling, while Adaptive ANC 2.0 performs real-time calculations to tailor it to your surroundings and also your ear canal shape, so you can enjoy it anywhere, anytime. Like, really, the noise cancelling on these is so impressive that I literally cannot hear a thing from the outside when I have them on. Even now, I can barely even hear my voice talking. The earbuds support LDAC, and with a high-res wireless certification and an 11mm driver with a curated curved design, their high-quality audio offers amazingly crisp sound. And a single charge of the Liberty 4 NCs lasts for 10 hours, and 50 hours with a charging case, with the freedom to charge it wired or wirelessly. Choose out of 5 different colors today for $99.99 by using the link below. And now, back to the video. At number 5, this has not been confirmed by Nothing, but rather something that's been rumored, and that is a larger display. So the Phone 1 had a pretty decently sized display at 6.55 inches, making it noticeably larger than an iPhone 14 Pro. However, the Nothing Phone 2 is set to come with a 6.7-inch panel, the same size as an iPhone 14 Pro Max or an iPhone 14 Plus. And this could explain why Nothing decided to round the frame that much, as the iPhone 14 Pro Max is really one of the most uncomfortable phones on the market right now due to its very wide body and very sharp flat frame. Of course, for those wanting smaller phones from Nothing, your best bet is to just get the Phone 1, which Nothing would likely still be selling after the Phone's 2 launch. In fact, CarPlay even said that, contrary to the popular belief, very few people buy small phones. Now, based on these OnLeaks renders, the bezels do look uneven. However, this is likely just an illusion caused by the side bezels being slightly curved. Personally, when you look at a phone from the front, I do think that they would still look symmetrical. Okay, the sixth change is going to be a larger battery according to CarPlay himself. and apparently the battery will now be 4700 mAh as opposed to the current 4500 that we have on the phone 1. And this will definitely be needed as we are also getting a much more powerful chip, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which has also been confirmed by Carl Pei among the fact that the phone 2 would feature about 80% more performance than the phone 1. Now, some people might be like, hey, the 8 Gen 1 is very out of date, it's a 2022 chip, and after it, we got the 8 Plus Gen 1, and also the 8 Gen 2 that came out this year. So why is nothing using such an old chip? Well, I think it's because they still want to have a competitive price point, which we'll get to in a moment, and using the 8 Gen 1, likely some remaining stock from Qualcomm, allows them to dramatically increase their performance whilst keeping a fairly low price point. Plus, the 8 Gen 1 is still a very powerful chip, capable of playing pretty much any game you throw at it at the highest possible settings. And you need to remember that the phone 1, which came with a mid-range Snapdragon 778G, was already incredibly fluid. Like, when I was using it, I hadn't experienced any lag whatsoever due to how light the OS was. The only slight performance issues that I've had was that some apps took a bit longer to load, but other than that, everything was still perfectly fluid. Okay, the 8th change is said to be the addition of virtual RAM according to MySmartPrice. This is essentially swap memory support. In case you don't know what swap memory is, it's essentially your storage being used as RAM when your RAM is full. For this, you need some super fast storage. So it is possible that a Nothing Phone 2 would be using UFS 4.0 storage. That would give it up to 2.8 gigabytes per second write speeds and up to 4.2 gigabytes per second read speeds. Yes, it would be faster in this case than the new base MacBooks. However, many phones that do not use UFS 4.0 and instead use UFS 3.1, that still gets about 2.1 gigs per second read and 1.2 gigs per second write, do support virtual RAM. And if we take a quick look at the storage speeds of the Nothing Phone 1, we get about 1.3 gigabytes per second read and 542 megabytes per second write. So the read is very fast, but the write is indeed quite slow for virtual RAM. So it could also be that the phone 2 still features UFS 3.1 like the phone 1, it's just that it's a slightly faster storage module from a different seller with better write speeds. Okay, at number 9, it seems like we are going to get a custom USB-C cable as opposed to the standard white cable that we got before. This is coming straight from Carl Pei, who tweeted an image of this new USB-C cable. As some of you might know, I was a big fan of the phone 1's custom accessories, the transparent charger and the transparent SIM eject tool. The only accessory that didn't quite match was the charging cable, so I'm quite glad to see Nothing fixing that. Okay, these next 3 updates haven't been teased by Nothing or even leaked, but they are quite likely to happen to some extent. So at number 10, we have improved speakers. The speakers on the phone 1 were not great. They sounded quite muffled, and I do think that it is very likely that we will see improved speakers. In fact, if we take a closer look at Onyx's renders, the top speaker does seem to be larger than what we have now. So at least the top speaker will likely get improved. And I'm also expecting some upgraded cameras. So the cameras on the phone 1 were not bad by any means, but compared to the iPhone SE's camera and the Pixel 6a's camera, which were its closest competitors, the phone 1 was considerably worse. Yeah, the cameras were indeed the biggest downside of the phone 1. Now, luckily, Nothing has released a bunch of software updates after its launch to improve the cameras, and I'm really happy to see that. Still, they're not quite on par with the Pixel or the iPhone, which is why I think we'll see some changes. Although these changes are likely going to be very minor, as we haven't had any camera leaks whatsoever. One camera change that we do know about is the flash, which, as we can see from Onyx's renders, is now a dual flash, probably even dual tone. But other than that, I guess we'll have to wait and hope for the best. And the last thing to expect is, of course, a higher price. And this is pretty much a no-brainer. We're getting better specs, a larger display. It's also Nothing's second phone, so the price will likely be higher. But how much higher? That is the question. Well, a leaked price of 729 euros was said to be the case for the base model, or just about $800, which would be substantially more than the phone 1's roughly $500 price point. Carl Pei even responded to this leak and asked, who leaked this? Yeah, personally I think Carl was just joking, and I don't think the price will actually be that high. So I think it will be around $600 to $700 at most. And yes, this time the Nothing Phone 2 will be sold in the US, unlike the phone 1, which wasn't. But yeah, the launch will be on the 11th of July, so do let us know in the comments what do you guys think of the phone 2 so far. And also make sure to subscribe if you want to see the day 1 coverage that we'll have for the phone 2. I'm Daniel, it's been ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.